So welcome to Ariana, and we look forward to hearing from you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you for this opportunity to share what we are doing in Latin America. Well, taking advantage that we are not so many people, maybe we can do this more interactive, more in terms of conversation instead of a presentation. I would like to propose that. I prepared some slides, and actually I would like to know a little bit about you. If you can write something in the chat, that would be great. Just to see if you are aware of the Latin American context, how we are doing things here. And if not, maybe I can start from that. And well, I will share my screen right now. Okay, I think you can see it, right? Okay, and Dominique is here, which is more than a mentor and a master here in Latin America. So Domi, if you want to help me, that would be great with this. Okay, so well, the topic today, it's gonna be, well, it's gonna focus on the adoption of the APC business model in Latin America, which is something that I don't really like, but it's something that we need to talk about it because from like, let's say 10 years, Latin America has been a model that has this characteristic to be non-profit, to be sustained with public funds, to be sustained with open access organically, with no fees to authors or readers. And unfortunately, the adoption of different commercial business models around this ecosystem is alarming. We are losing journals that are being purchased by commercial publishers. And also we are seeing the transition of, or the flip of open access journals that used to be diamond journals, and now they are not diamond anymore. So this is because of various factors that are surrounds the sector, the publishing sector in Latin America, and I would like to highlight that. I don't know, let me just check if I can see the chat. Is it the chat the means to interact? Maybe, yes? Okay, I can see it. Okay, thank you. Well, and I will start just with a quick introduction about what we do in Redalic. Maybe you're not familiar with what we are doing in Redalic. And this is a picture taken from our building that is, I think, very well depicts what our mission. We started in 2003. Sorry, it's in Spanish, but I will translate it. With our main our mission was to make science visible when the transition to digital technologies was just emerging. But now, 20 years after this beginning of Redalic, now we are focusing on seeing on the paradigm of science as public good. And we are changing this a little bit, the focus or the aim, because we have seen that open access has been distorted to allow different strategies that actually are not very healthy if we want to achieve equity or diversity in science. And this is why now we are focusing on science as a public good. We are doing kind of the same, but actually, since our focus and our aim changed a little bit, then our services are totally centered or oriented to achieve that science is a public good. And this is our numbers right now. We are actually an index of quality journals. We, as we are going to say a little bit more later, we follow, well, we all the journals that are indexed in the platform are submitted for evaluation. So we can guarantee the quality of these journals. These journals are mainly published by academic institutions, universities, associations, learned societies, even the public sector, government, hospitals. From 31 countries. We work from the beginning with the Latin American region, but since 2018, we decided to open our geographical scope and to start indexing journals from any part of the world once they approve the quality criteria, which is for us very important. But we are also a full text repository for the journals they published. So we host the full text in our platform, and we have almost 1 million full text articles in our portal. Our approach is to help journals with different services, with different, of course, free of cost, services for journal production, for interoperability and discoverability, for metrics and statistics, for visibility, for even the electronic production of the journal. So we provide different technologies and tools to do that in our platform. So a journal can focus on the peer review and peer review strength within the journal, and then can have access to these added value services so they can be more competitive and more visible on the web. These are our services. As I said before, we have this layer of quality assurance. We have different criteria. I will talk a little bit more about it later. And we have also this editorial workflow technology. So we have our content also structured under the XML JATS standard. And with this file format, we produce automatically the PDF, HTML, EPUB, and different versions of the articles that are openly available in the platform. We provide this kind of homepages, country-based homepage for area or discipline, journal homepage, institutional homepage, and author homepage. For example, in terms of the institution homepage, you can see the collection of journals they are publishing, but also the scientific output of their researchers that are being published in the collection of journals that we index. And our approach to open science, not only talking from Redalyc, but also from the initiative Amelica, which is supported and initiated also by UNESCO and Claxo, it is to seek the different to seek that the different branches of the open science also take into account or are oriented to science as public good. So not only open access, but also open books, open data, open policies, repositories, open content, open source software, to orient our services to that spectrum. And we are following this framework from the Digital Public Goods Alliance, trying to secure a journal, for example, or a repository or a book as a public good, with which it has different characteristics to be secure as public goods. Basically, we work, and this is our approach, for responsible sustainability. So this is a collective, or I would like to say cooperative sustainability of these public goods, I mean, journal repositories and open infrastructures, and to provide this universal benefit to authors, readers, and many other stakeholders like bibliometricians, decision makers, governments, so all the information can be accessible and can be processable, findable, readable, and all the fair data characteristics. Our approach to address the quality assurance is to provide always feedback to journal editors. So this is why we say that this is a circular and iterative process. So I won't go deep into this, but just to say that when a journal wants to be submitted, then we start with a set of iterations until the journal gets indexed. And we provide actually a quality report, which is something like this. This is something that I think other databases, like for example, Web of Science, doesn't provide to journal editors. So they just receive an acceptance or rejection, of their submission of the journal to the database. In our case, we want to raise quality. So this is why we provide this quality feedback report, and we interact. Actually, we meet with the journal editors. We have conversations just like this, virtual conversations, in order to really find out the areas of opportunity in terms of quality. And also we did this with advisory board that is external to our platforms. We have these two indexes, one for the most qualified journals and one index for journals in consolidation. And for us, it's also important to address journals that are new, that are just emerging, and that are just consolidating themselves, and help them to be more strong in terms of quality and other features. So we have these two indexes, the index of journals of consolidation in Amelica and the index of quality journals in Redalyc, and we provide these kinds of certificate. And this is just to let you know that all this information, these processes are automated. Actually, this is what our advisory board see in our systems, just to assess the quality and provide also qualitative feedback on the quality of the journals. And I won't go also deep into this, but something that is important for you to know is that we require at least 7 criteria are mandatory. We have like 38 criteria in our process, but it's immediate open access, no APC. So we work exclusively with Diamond Open Access journals. That we also require that the publishing institution is a non-profit organization. It can be a scholarly universities, but we require that it's not commercial entity. And also we evaluate, we take very seriously the peer review processes and the evidence that they can provide about the peer review strength. And also the periodicity, and also the frequency, and all the legal, of course, structure of the and governance of the journals. We also take in account that. And this is somehow a revolution, but this is not so important in this moment. I would like to just skip a little bit. This is important because, despite the fact that we have journals mainly from the Latin American region, because we are based in Latin America, and we also started in Latin America, we now are indexing journals from other countries. As you can see here, we have now from Africa, Asia, and some parts of Europe. We already have journals that are Diamond. But in terms of users, you can see this is a more diversified population of users that are downloading and reading the content in Redalyc. We have reached this milestone just last year, the 1 million users per month. So, which is for us, we're very happy because of that. And this is our network of authors. We have around 2.5 million authors in our platform. And this is the interaction. So something that is important to see, and I will start addressing the main topic of today, is that Diamond Diamond Open Access journals, together with repositories, of course, and Diamond Open Access books, are very good components in terms of allowing a diverse community to be part of a global conversation. We have, for example, Diamond Open Access journals, even if they are based in some countries, how the network of authors that are publishing in there and the readers that are just downloading the information. So this is very diverse, at least compared to what we see, for example, from Scopus, when we see the scientific output through the lens of citations. And when we see this, we can see, of course, that Global South is not really, well, it doesn't appear in the database in terms of citation. Well, if you have any question, maybe I can answer. Well, I think there are some comments. I will read them in a minute. Thanks. And also, well, we have these different collections, since we also work with the articles beyond the journals. I mean, we can have these transversal semantic collections. We are doing this with linked open data, and we are reconfiguring the content in order to give tools to the end user to retrieve information by one of the SDGs. So we are doing this, and also all of this is, of course, openly available as well through SparkQL if you want to process this data. We also work very closely with the Green Open Access with repositories. In the region here in Latin America, we have a major agreement with a regional network of national networks of repositories, which is La Referencia. And what we are doing is to integrate the content from Diamond Journals into repositories at national level, but also at institutional level. So for us, it's a very good strategy to have the best of these two worlds. And this is just to show how we can have, or how this content is used. Something that is very interesting to see from the content is that it's used as open educational resources a lot in universities, well, in the educational sector, of course. But also you can see here, for example, how Redalyc is being, in this case, linked by some other institutions, for example, the CNRS or the Harvard University, or different universities or academic search engines that are using this content, or other open infrastructures like OpenEdition in France. This is, for example, the network where Harvard University appears as one of the main universities that are searching in the content that we have. And also the different indexes at national level, like Yandex from Russia, and well, the government of Mexico, and other search engines at that scale. And another thing that I like to highlight is that the kind of the research agendas that are being addressed by Diamond Open Access journals, since they are by nature more closer to the local communities and also to local languages, then they allow to really represent the local problems and the local research agendas. And this is, for example, one screenshot from our most queried topics in Redalyc. And you can see here, for example, that in some times of the year, the disease dengue is one of the most downloaded topic in Redalyc, but also, for example, rural migration and some other problems that are being addressed and published by these journals and by the local communities. And also the diversification of local languages in our database. So you can see here that we have, in terms of the language of articles, more from Spanish, Portuguese, English, French, and now the others are growing because we are indexing journals from all over the world. But also you can see the topics, as I said before. So an idea, or our aim or our motivation to keep doing this with Diamond Open Access Journal is that for us, Diamond Open Access Publishing is a key factor for achieving this paradigm of science as public good, because it allows multilingualism, it's more equitable, it is embodied actually into the academic sector, and in the case for the case in Latin America is mainly sustained by public funds, which is something important to highlight. So the problem, all that was the introduction. Sorry for the long introduction. But now the thing is that, well, yes, we used to be, or we are still, let's say, well, an ecosystem that we are very proud to have journals as public goods, growing for decades and consolidating the research that we produce in Latin America. Let me just speak from the Latin America ecosystem. But now we are seeing this adoption of the APC business model. We have, and I will present a work that is in progress. We are conducting here research in terms of the evolution of these sustainability of models or business models. And we have, the last year, we made a re-evaluation of our index journals. So we have almost 2,000 journals, and we identified that with a preliminary evaluation that 133 journals, I mean, around the 7% of our database, have started to charge authors. So we wanted to find out more about what is happening, what are the reasons, because we are seeing in other parts of the world an inflationary market of APCs right now. And we wouldn't want to have this for this ecosystem, the same issue. And also we have seen that we almost, well, a little bit more than 100 journals provided some evidence of commercial nature. So, I mean, they maybe flip from to be owned by a university, for example, and now they are part of the commercial publishers portfolio, or maybe they change the nature, or they are now publishing under other legal nature. So we have evidence on that. But I will show you the earlier results. They are not published yet. It is not finished. But actually, they are. This data is showing something right now. So of our main the main issues that they argue or they claim that they are charging authors because they want these funds for translation, peer review, and also for typesettings. Something that is interesting to know is that the majority of them come from Brazil. Some, as you can see, some from Spain, Mexico, Venezuela, Chile, Argentina, and you can see the graph there. So Brazilian journals that are adopting APC, I think they are doing it at a very high rate. And it is also being reflected in the language of the publication in terms of the Portuguese, as I will show you a little bit later. The majority of them actually said, well, the ones that have already answered our survey, because we sent a survey recently, it is not yet closed, so we are receiving responses right now. But so far, we have received responses from around half of them, and they argue that they started to charge APCs in 2020, I mean, during the pandemic. So the pandemic actually impacted in the decision of adopting APCs. If you see from the population of journals that started to charge authors, you can see here the areas from which they are. So agricultural sciences is one of the biggest, but also medical journals, psychology, health, education, biology. I mean, we can start imagining which kind of topics are now behind a paywall, at least for authors. And these are the topics that are being addressed by the journals that started to charge APCs. This is the case of the journals that flipped to APCs in Mexico. So this is the topics that they are publishing about. This is the case of Spain, Venezuela. This is the case of Brazil, and perhaps we can stop a little bit here, since various medical journals from Brazil are adopting the APC. So this is, for example, the topics that these journals are being covering. The case of Chile, and this is something interesting to see. For example, the case of Cuba. In Cuba, for example, one of the important topics of research is the research on sugarcane, because they are one of the biggest producers of sugarcane. And one of their most important journals in that topic now is charging APCs. So the thing is that we would like to actually ask or think or reflect about what it's going to happen with the Cuban researchers that are publishing there, that they didn't used to pay to publish in the journal, and now they need to pay. And with the situation in Cuba that we all know is not good. So, and the thing is how these journals won't be a public good for the Cuban community, and it will start being a different instrument. I mean, publishing perhaps different topics, or publishing other communities of authors from perhaps other parts of the world, I don't know. So the transition, I think it's going to be very interesting to track this in time, to see in the future what happened with these journals. And if they really solve their funding problems with this strategy, which our evidence shows that actually they don't really meet their needs by charging APCs, because they cannot charge high APCs. They charge small APCs, let's say, just for survival purposes, and because they are not well positioned in the commercial databases, where actually they are being used for calculating the APC charges, then they cannot charge a high APC. So, well, and this is the languages that are in which they are publishing, and this is something very, very interesting, and I really believe that. I hope you can see it's a little bit small, but in green you can see the Portuguese language in terms of the language from the journals that are now adopted APCs. And you can see here how Portuguese used to be in 2005, 2006, 2007, an important language. This is the green one. And how it started to drop. You see the publication in Portuguese. And you can see the English is the yellow one. And the yellow one just was small in proportion with the Portuguese, I mean, with the local language. And then, well, it started to grow. But in 2015, actually, the curve changed. And we can see that the articles are published now more in English rather than in Portuguese. So multilingualism, of course, we support multilingualism, but I think it shouldn't be in detriment of local languages. Now we can have this graph, we would like to see it growing in terms of the Portuguese and also English, But if we see only English growing and then the local language Portuguese is just dropping, as you can see now in 2017, you can see that English is the prevalent language for this kind of journals, the ones that are charging APCs right now, and local languages are just kind of disappearing in this graph. Well, I think that's it. This is my last slide. I will be very happy to have a conversation with you. Just to share and invite you to read and perhaps hopefully sign the Manifesto on Science as Public Good, Non-Commercial Open Access, which is one of the outcomes of the first Global Diamond Open Access Summit that was held here in Mexico. Well, 2 years ago. Last year was in Cape Town in South Africa. And this is one of the outcomes of this summit. This is now our signatories of the manifesto between individuals and also organizations from 93 countries. So if you want to have a look at it, I would be very happy. And thank you so much. And that's it from my end in this moment. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ariana. That was a fascinating talk. I heard some words of praise already from some people in the room. And you may have seen that you almost doubled the audience, so we're 16 participants now. So this testifies to the interestingness of your talk, I think. Let me take questions now. Please raise your hand either in the camera or in the raise hand feature if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll just jump ahead and ask a very simple question, but I'm sure there are more interesting questions in the room than mine. So, Rima.
Thank you so much for the talk. I was particularly interested, of course, in the change in APCs in some of the journals. And I was wondering, since you said that some of them claim that they are paying their reviewers, this just stood out to me as something that in my discipline that basically never happens. So I was wondering if you actually know whether the claims that they make as to why they introduce an APC have anything to do with what actually happens at the journal, or if these are just kind of a front and an argument.
Well, yes, I think the arguments actually came from the need that the journals have to keep raising their quality and to keep up with the technologies and different things that are now requirements of a journal. But actually, I think that we need to really work on the research assessment systems worldwide, because they don't fairly recognize the contribution of Diamond Open Access journals. And the institutions that has been supporting them, they don't really feel encouraged enough to continue supporting them as they should be. Something that we are working in Amelica together with UNESCO is how we can make the contribution of a university or of an institute a contribution in terms of the sustainability of their own journals, in order to, we have a lot of rankings for different things to rank universities, but they don't actually consider the effort that they are doing in sustaining Diamond Open Access journals. So I believe if we make these efforts visible, then these journals could avoid charging APCs. We have a couple of very success stories in Redalyc, journals that after all these conversations, we find out a way to help them to avoid or to prevent the adoption of APCs by trying to cover their needs with technology, with cooperation, with collaboration, and some other strategies. And we have some examples of these good stories. But I think it's something that we need. This is a phenomenon that is starting, and we should be very, pay attention to this in the near future. Well, thanks for the question, Rima. Martin?
Hello. I have a question and a follow-up question. It emerges that astronomical prestige charges become unsustainable even for British universities. I've just put in a link of a recent article by the CEO of Research Libraries UK, who makes the point that we should actually take this as an opportunity to do something better. And I wonder whether you have been recently in touch with Research Libraries UK, because that might be quite fruitful.
Actually, I haven't, but I will be this year in UK. I was invited to a conference on actually equity, and I think I will be in Bristol, I think. But no, actually, we don't have any collaboration. But I would be very happy to. I think it's exactly that we are now seeing red flags around APCs, and now we need to rethink how we ended up here, right? If we wanted to have a more healthier publishing sector, and then now we are trapped into the APCs. Well, we will be very happy to collaborate in something, yeah.
Follow-up question and remark is that in the policy sphere, we're seeing a lot that I can't talk about the details in South America, but generally we see a lot that some global South countries want to follow what's happening in the global North, and that's not a good idea. So in particular, if we get something new running that links up the global North and the global South is jointly carried, that would have a good positive impact. So in particular, with the Global Young Academy, we recently published an article on promotion criteria, which was a global study. And I made sure that at the end of the discussion, we have the point about the global South being well suited to take the lead in innovative models. And in fact, your work is explicitly mentioned there. And I think talking to Research Libraries UK right now would be a very good thing to do.
Yeah, that's great. And I could like to read that research. I'm very interested in reading that, because yes, I think I see this as a systemic problem. It's not something from the south or from the north. I actually see that, for example, in Africa, they are very dependent on commercial publishers and on patronizing strategies to have funds from the north, for example, to publish, and they are publishing actually in commercial journals that they sometimes cannot have access to their own research. It's so concerning and contradictory, and all of this is happening under the umbrella of open access, which is more frustrating sometimes. And also we have seen that these big deals at national level, they are also strategies that are being adopted actually here in Latin America, but they are not governments. They are not taking into account seriously at that level the sustainability of their own journals, because they are not recognized because of that contribution. I think this is something that we need to really address from the research assessment systems, and to really evolve research assessment, to really look at quality information beyond the commercial or non-commercial channels. I mean, now I see initiatives that are basing the research assessment in more comprehensive databases, like, for example, OpenAlex, which is good. But still, in OpenAlex is not really well covered the Global South quality research there. Still, it is not there in this moment. And also the Diamond Open Access articles are not in there. So we are kind of, replicating or repeating the same biases than before, but now with a more comprehensive database. And this is, I think, because we are not realizing of the root of the problem, that is to be more to integrate the research more globally, no matter the mainstream databases or the peripheral databases. Sometimes we are called like that only because we are based in the global south. But well, it's complicated. But I thank you for your comment, Martin. And Dominique, you raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, but in the building beside, there's a construction, so I don't know if you can hear me because of the noise. But, well, I follow your presentations because there are so many updates. At Claxo, we are the Council of Social Sciences in Latin America, and we have more than 400 journals of our members, and many are indexed by Redalyc. And, well, we join forces with Redalyc with so many activities. But Martin, thank you for raising the issue that we adopt the bad procedures of the North more easily than the good ones. And an example is for young researchers, because we are in the context of the Global Young Academy. And the young researchers live with that tension because they are invited to publish in the university journals and in diamond journals, but the research assessment systems rewards when publishing in high impact factor journals. So that tension is the main problem today. And I think in the global south in general. And another tension is the fact that if we push globally for requirements that are expensive, we are excluding journals that will not be able to pay, because a very basic, like $1 for DOI for each article, can become a nightmare for some journals which are published in countries which cannot even afford to send money abroad. So we have to find global solutions to make advances and progress on quality that are not so costly, that are to think about it as a community solution and a collaborative solution. Because it's very dramatic to see in our region, Latin America, where research is mainly publicly funded, to see it move toward APCs. We have to stop that progress. It's not healthy, because then the governments will start saying, oh, well, that's a solution. Go the commercial way. And we have seen that in higher education also. Privatize everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Domi. Always your wisdom is always, enlightens any presentation you are. Thank you so much, and for reminding that we are exactly in the contents of how new generations can really make a change in the near future. Yes, Martin, please.
There's something that I hear frequently is people talking about first mover disadvantage in the current environment, which completely inhibits any change. And I like to encourage people to think about making use of a first mover advantage. So what are your thoughts how we can materialize on first mover advantages?
Domi, do you want to address that Martin's comment? It's following your comment. You are muted, Domi.
Please do it, Adriana, take this issue.
But you say in the context, Martin, of the global context, because it's, so diverse.
Yeah, but I think system that is diverse is always the opportunity, always comes with an opportunity. Because a system that has diversity built in doesn't enforce full conformity. That means people can do things differently and succeed.
Now I understand. Thank you, Ariana. Also, now I understand. We can do it differently, but there's a movement on aligning diamond open access with international standards of what is quality in diamond. And there we start to perceive from Latin America that several requirements for quality are too costly for many of our journals in the region. And I took only one small example, is the DOI. Why can't we have a DOI that is community-led with no charge? Because $1 is nothing for you in the North, but $1 can change the decision to use DOI or not. Majority of your journals in Latin America don't use DOI, for example.
Exactly, Domi, thanks. Hanjo, is it okay?
Yeah, Anjo, yeah, sure. So I put myself basically on the speaker list, but since you're moderating, I think that's fair. I have a rather trivial question in comparison with the previous ones, but maybe an important one. So when you showed us the criteria for inclusion in Rhetoric, you said that it should be open access, of course. I was wondering, what do you mean by open access? And it struck me that in my discipline, there are very different understandings of what open access means. Some people say open access is just if it's online. Some people say it has to be free, it has to be without registration. Other people say there have to be legal limits. And so the definition that I like to use is the one in the Berlin Declaration. It's like about 20 years old. And that includes, for instance, the right to edit an author's work. That is in the Berlin Declaration. It's part of the legal rights that you have if you follow that open access definition. But I don't see that in your criteria, which is why I'm wondering, how did you develop your open access definition, and how inclusive is it with respect to, especially thinking about new technologies such as machine learning, AI training? Is a journal that wouldn't allow AI companies to train on their contents, would that still be open access or not? That is an issue that arises from that. So I'm wondering, what is your open access understanding? Thanks.
And very important, I think, because now we have a lot of flavors and colors of open access, even something that is not open access. Actually, around 10 criteria of our 40 criteria are related to go deep into open access definition. I mean, it says immediate open access, that they have no embargo in their publishing, of course, no APCs, but also licensing for, and also the author rights. I mean, that they don't require to hold the author rights, and we have many criteria on that, just to go deep into what is open access. But I think our definition is like exactly the one you mentioned, like the Budapest Open Access Initiative 20 years ago. But we require different things: licensing, also machine readability. This is why we have the requirement of XML also. And also the third-party deposits, they need to allow that. Well, self-archiving for authors, and also the ownership. And well, we have like 10. And also, if I may, just to address your comment in the chat, actually the journals that I didn't mention this thing, but it's very important. The journals that I showed that we identified charging APCs, they are going to be now dropped from our databases, because they are not meeting the requirement of not charging authors. But this is interesting because we are now have to do a reevaluation more continuously than before, because they are adopting APCs or they are flipping to commercial entities. So this is a task we didn't used to know, and now we have a couple of people in our team taking a look always to the or having this information updated, because we see this transition, and our database is very dynamic now, because many journals now have to be deleted from our databases and not indexed anymore. Yes, Martin, please.
Oh, let me pull a big thing out. Namely, the right to science in Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That puts an obligation to member states.
Exactly.
That pretty much implies that there should be public support for public infrastructure in place. We should do everything to push more for this to actually happen, and not to put the onus on other people. I mean that people get these get scientific publications. It's not an obligation to researchers. It's an obligation to member states. It's an obligation of the public community.
Let me react to your comment because yes, this is exactly our point. But I don't see, some argue that it's very complex. It's more complex to support science as public good than science in a transactional way. I mean, pay for something to get something in interchange. So this complexity is working against Diamond Open Access. At least they argue that. But for us, I think it is not as complex as they want to say it. Yes, please, Dithar.
Yes, hello. I've watched so far. You probably don't know me in this group. I'm currently heading a group for the Leopoldina, our national academy, to look into new ways of publishing. Stephanie Euberg is actually part of this group, so that's why I got the link. So we will publish a first outcome of that, where, okay, I should start the other way around. Publishing, of course, costs money. There's no doubt about it. And money can be in the form of working effort of people who do it on the side, or you buy services and so on. And that's the reason why you have to get money from somewhere. And I can understand the journals who want to recover the money via APCs. But of course, the appropriate way to fund journals is via grants. And I don't know why people don't consider this possibility much more or press for it. Also, the suggestion by Martin is to make first a declaration about this. No, why don't you pressure your research organization to give out grants for that? And that will be actually the content of our first discussion paper on that. So I think that's the way to go. Because there's no reason why the publication itself should not be published and should not be funded in the same way as the research is funded. You apply for grants, then you have the money, and then you can do the research, and then you want to publish it. So somebody should be able to apply for a grant. The additional advantage of that would be, of course, if it's a real grant, then there should be an evaluation of the grant application. And that gives the journal a standing in the field, independent of an impact factor. It says there has been a group of scientists who have approved this journal and may even reevaluate it every 4 or 5 years and see how it is running. And that would be a complete alternative to impact factors in the future. But anyway, you will be able to read this very soon. It's currently in the printing efforts, and there will be an English translation, of course.
Please share it when it's published. And this is a key point, I think, and also a key pillar of the sustainability of the ecosystem in Latin America. The journals we are publishing, well, in Diamond Open Access, they are normally embedded into the research department sections in university. So because the journals are seen as part of the research life cycle, publishing is part of that. It's not separated or isolated. And I think this is key to recognize them more fairly, but also to sustain and to have these funds, because they should be from the research funds. Exactly. We agree with that. And actually, it's something that happens in Latin America. Yes, please, Roel.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting. I'm a big fan of Diamond Open Access, but in my field, it's just not very common. But yeah, for me also the big question is, where's the money coming from? I understand that they move to article processing charges, because in the capitalist system, if you can be self-sustainable, the government and your university probably will want you to do that. And therefore, I was actually surprised and more interested in what DTAD means by asking for a grant to have a journal, which on the face of it sounds straightforward. But what happens if the grant runs out? The importance, the absolute crucial thing about journals is that they will remain forever accessible. And if the money runs out, what are you going to do? And that's actually for all the Diamond Open Access journals a huge problem. This stuff needs to be stored somewhere. It needs to be made accessible. So
Well,
also
if I can answer directly, this is, of course, that's a key issue. There are different types of grants, at least in the German system. One grant is actually, there are types of grants that are actually for continuous support, but under the condition of re-evaluation, that the operation runs successfully. So it's not something which is fixed from start for 3 or 5 years. It's a promising, okay, we continue to support you as long as you are successful. And there are major organizations, for example, the Max Planck Societies run this way, the Helmholtz Society, Leibniz Societies, they're all run by this principle. And journals could be run by the same principle. The other is the market argument. Of course, it's a bit funny because APCs are ultimately also paid by the taxpayer. There's very few people who pay it out of their own pocket. So and it's the commercial companies who make the big profit. So if there is a market thinking about this, then it must be directly paid, or there must be an infrastructure which pays publishing directly rather than giving somebody a big share in it by making profits from taxpayers' money. But again, we will discuss that. We are discussing all of that in this paper, so you can look it up. But generally, yes, of course, it must be a system that must be renewable, which doesn't mean that it cannot end at some point. Journals die also on the normal life cycles, or refocus on new topics. But basically, there should be a promise that it continues as long as it's a big resource for the community.
Do such grants exist outside Germany?
Well, for example, if you want, PubMed is funded in this way, or EMBO is funded in this way. So it's basically an acknowledged principle that you do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so this was a very fascinating discussion. I'm afraid we're already on the hour, so we want to be mindful of people's time and don't want to keep you here for too long. So I think I'll leave the last word to Arianna if there's anything else you want to say or add to the discussion, and then we'll wrap the session.
Because it's a very interesting conversation. Well, just a quick comment, a final comment, that yes, in some areas we really need more Diamond Open Access Journal. That happens to me in computer scientist, but as a computer scientist, but also it's very important that remind the paradigm of the commons, that everybody contributes to that commons with, in this case, talking about journals, for example, a couple of years ago, I have a conversation with the Max Planck Institute, and imagine if Max Planck or Leibniz can really can publish journals, can create journals, Diamond Open Access journals in their own strengths in the topics that they cover, so they can really break this prestige based on impact factor, because they have the prestige because the academic behavior, not for impact factor, actually these kind of institutes. And if everybody contributes to the spectrum of Diamond Open Access journals as a commons, then everybody can benefit from the investment of others. So this is something that just to remind that this is also a very interesting way to address science as part of the commons. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for this conversation. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks from our side. Thank you from the Global Young Academies Working Group Open Science. I really like this discussion. I think we should continue, as you said, the exchange, especially, I guess, in the direction of, who needs journals after all? Once we are in a repository world, then why is the old concept of journals even still relevant? But I think that's an entirely different topic for a different day. So thanks to all of you being here, and we look forward to the next Open Science First Friday. The recording of this session will be online for a few weeks, so you can actually watch it later if you missed some parts of it, or if you want to share it with other people. And the next talk is going to be in April, then in the first Friday of April. Well, goodbye to you all and have a great weekend.